The violence seems never ending. So far this year, more than 60 people have been killed in Memphis. Right now, the city is on track to record 240 homicides, breaking a record for the most murders in Memphis in 1 year.
Well, Merle, you know, they say that life is what you make it. And back in 1941, this place, Foot Homes, was a place that people came with their dreams and opportunities, rising up from the Delta, migrating here, thinking that this was going to be a golden place to live. Well, it's been decades since that happened. Maybe it's time now, and a lot of people told me this today. It's time to move on. And there's a lot of that feeling of desperation, especially around the Foot Homes area and in other places like this. Memphis is a town now of about 650,000 people. It used to be a kind of an economic jewel for black people here. That was in the days when there were companies like Firestone, International Harvester. But when those places and plants and companies left, it basically left Memphis without a middle class. And this is an area that really people are just hanging on. At one time, fairly decent, but it grew violent pretty quickly. Is it kind of scary?
At night.
At night? How long have you lived here?
20 years.
20 years. What was it like 20 years ago? That house, I mean, people lived here and all?
Yes, it was. Somebody lived in both of them, and the man who lived here, he died. So, and then some junkies burned his house down, so they tore his house down, but these have been abandoned for like 6 years.
6 years. Wow. Do you fear for their safety?
Yeah. And I had a big dog, but somebody killed him, somebody poisoned him.
How do you protect yourself?
Well, I mostly rely on faith. I feel like if I'm a good person, God ain't gonna let nothing happen that wasn't supposed to happen, and if it happened, it was time, or it was supposed to happen. Because he don't make no mistakes.
I wish that there were a lot more people in our local government who would come down here and take a look at some of this stuff and effectively say, we're going to take this out. Because this is not a way to live. This is, that grandmother down there, if they have poisoned her dog already, if the dope dealers burned down the house 2 doors down, how long is it before the day will come to where they're going to go after her and those grandchildren?
It's hard to imagine Memphis as a beacon of hope. But after World War II, thousands of black families escaping the overwhelming poverty and racism of the Mississippi Delta established middle-class lives in Memphis. It was known as the City of Churches, and even under the vile Jim Crow regime, 90% of black men held down jobs and supported families. Today, the old order has been turned upside down. 46% of black men are unemployed or out of the labor force. 77% of black children are born to single mothers. And more than 21,000 black men in Memphis have disappeared altogether through incarceration or early death.
Too many senseless murders. Too many young folk in the grave, oh, too early. And it's important for you to realize that time is not long.
In South Memphis, I met hundreds of men and women who still believe in the old moral order, but it feels like a lost cause. The streets have been taken over by gangs, drugs, and incredible violence.
So let me tell you something. Don't let them catch you with your word. I'm done. I said, young folk, don't let them catch you with your word. I'm done.
And still, the faithful hold out hope. They're still grappling with what went wrong and how we can fix it.
All these things that we talked about, our failures, the genesis of this starts with our environment, how we were raised. Everything that we see around us, the people that influence us, our parents, our friends, our relatives, the social integration that's around us shape our values. And our values are the things that influence our behavior, our thinking, our thought process.
All the brothers in here, they been through something, man, and I ain't trying to make myself look no how, but man, man, I have been through so much and seen so much, man, and man, it's really hit home for me, man. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, man, that man, my mama raised 3 boys, man, and both of my brothers were killed, man. And, man, my brothers were my friends, man. And if you haven't experienced what I've experienced and losing, man, these 2 brothers the way I have, and how we grew up and how close we were, man, that's a pain, man, that's really hard to bear, man. But man, through the grace of God, man, I made it, man, and I'm still here, and I'm here for a reason.
I grew up in a rough neighborhood in Memphis. I started selling crack at 15. I've been to federal prison twice. I've been to state prison once. And during that time, man, I just decided, man, that right now is the time. Right now is the time to change. So here I am. These are the streets, man, where I come up at, man. I spent a lot of years over here, man, and in these apartments, man, and it was rough, man. It was rough. It was always something going on all the streets up and down these apartments, man. It's always something going on. It really makes you feel like you've been set up to fail.
93% of all family households are headed by a single mother. 78% of all families are on public assistance, and only 20% of all working-age men are employed full-time throughout the year. Out of nearly 6,000 total residents, there are only 10 nuclear families. Over the past 50 years, we've tried to solve these problems through public policy. The federal government currently spends more than $3 billion a year on anti-poverty programs in Memphis, but nothing works. In Shelby County Jail, I met hundreds of men who've been through an endless gauntlet of failed schools, failed prisons, and failed social programs. It's a tragedy for these men, but it's the women who carry the real burden. For every father in prison, there's a mother left to raise a family on her own. It's hard to see how they can create a better life for their kids.